Hey, how's it going? I'm gonna do something I haven't done in a while, and I'm gonna do a Spirit TV episode, which is where I talk about like something that I've watched that I feel like is worth talking about. So yesterday, I just came across because it's the weekend and I don't know, the holidays are over, but the rest of the world is not caught up yet. This movie showed up, and I guess it's a couple of years old. I just linked it to add. I mean, I just made a link of it to add, and I forgot to see what year it came out, but I'll add it later, maybe. Oh, I guess I could just look it up. I do have another thing to look at. Well, that's not important now. Anyway, it is a documentary, and it was on Max, if you have that, and it's called Look Into My Eyes. Excuse me, I got a rattle going on. So it's called Look Into My Eyes, and it's about 6 psychic mediums. It's just about them, about their life. That doesn't do anything. It's such a habit. Well, anyway, there's no one to cough on in here, but they'll scream. That would be yucky. Hold on. So, Look Into My Eyes. And it takes place in New York. And, this doesn't really have anything to do with all of that, except for the fact that they show a couple of buildings, and in one of them lives one of the psychics that they profile. And there's most of the roof covered with solar panels. It just made me so happy. Anyway, the thing that I really liked about it was, well, obviously I'm into that kind of thing, or I wouldn't have watched it. But it wasn't scary. It wasn't, it wasn't like built up to be anything crazy. And that's the thing about sort of abilities. And I guess why I wanted to talk about it is because I guess a lot of more people are coming online, and then they'll be in various stages of some type of clair or something like that, if you know what those are, like clairvoyant and clairaudient. So clairvoyant, you can see, like your psychic medium. Wait, is it you can see the future, or you can see dead people, one or the other. And then clairaudient, you can hear stuff you can't see, or you can smell stuff. Like I've heard stuff, I've certainly smelled stuff. Haven't seen apparitions. Anyway, so, I guess telepathy exists, and, telekinesis, and don't think in terms of, like, the movies about them, though, because as I've gone along, I've learned that, like, to some degree, I was always doing something of that nature and not realizing that it was anything. And I think that's probably true of a lot of us. And you get ideas from watching movies and shows and stuff, and it's not any one thing to possess one of these enhanced senses. It could be a combination. It's always something. It's always something different. And it's kind of illustrated here, but what really kind of touched me was that they sounded like, except for I think one, that they all came into this as adults. Like they all just realized this stuff was happening, or like it's dramatic for some of them. One guy, he's spoiler alert, Oh, this gives me an opportunity to invite you to look at my sign. So here I go about to spoil something. The guy said there was something that triggered it, but he said all of a sudden he could see like through the wall into like the other room. I don't know if he was at home or whatever. I don't remember. And he knew stuff that he shouldn't know about people, and he thought he was going crazy. And that always cracks me up, because when you watch like ghost shows or like, well, there's a bunch like My Haunted House or whatever. Like that's one that it happens a lot where something happens that has never happened before. You feel all of these things. There's nothing normal about it, and they're all, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I thought my ears. I'm like, really? Why? You know what I'm saying? Sorry, I'm getting worked up. I just think it's funny. Like we don't trust ourselves. We're sort of conditioned to think either we can't do it, or we're Sabrina the teenage witch, or Samantha the older witch. But anyway, now I'm getting all sidetracked. But yeah, they were all like kind of adults when these things just started happening with them, and I just thought that was interesting, because, well, mediumship is something you can develop, you know, like if you care to. One of them even talks about waking up to it, and then like someone recommended going to a school and learning stuff. Two of them got recommendations to go to some kind of unusual therapy type situation. And one of them called, he just Googled psychic schools and went to one and learned how to develop his deal, and it's like how he makes his living now, which, I mean, I would love to make my living that way. Are you kidding? I wouldn't have to go places, really, if I didn't want to, and work for people and all of that really good stuff when you know, don't have to do it. That's awesome. Anyway, you can see another reason why it appealed to me, this show. And the people were just regular people. Like, they had their just like regular passions. They had their passions, they had their work, and then they had like life stuff, you know, relationships and good and bad financial times. And oh yeah, one of them has like a really kind of traumatic upbringing. Well, kind of. That one you can just watch for yourself if you're interested. Why? I didn't say anything. I don't think that, I just moved. If you've watched before, you know that sometimes my arms don't want to work right. Anyway, and that person whose experience was like super extreme could relate better with animals because of, you know, the experience that she'd had for a really long time. And yeah, you just have to see it for yourself. But she became an animal communicator, which I have come across one of those online, and they sort of are doing, well, they're in Canada for one thing. Well, that doesn't matter because it's all online, but I was watching their stuff for a while, but then they just started doing other stuff, so they don't really, you know, once in a while I'll get a notification, but I know where to find them. Like, I have had occasion to ask a question or to go back and say, hey, I don't know if you remember this, but blah, blah, blah. This happened. Like, I'm all excited because some enhancement, some extrasensory perception thing happened, and I was like, ooh. And she was very nice about it. So, and she also channels dead people. She likes to talk to celebrities and stuff. So That's interesting. And that is an interesting phenomenon too, right there. When you talk to the dead, when they talk to the dead people, like I've watched people talk to, like Kurt Cobain, and that one I really believe was like right on, because if you watch channelings enough, you'll see that certain ones, before they sort of, like when the transmission begins kind of thing, they'll be all, yes, yes, yes. If you don't know about it, that probably sounds really weird. Sounds kind of weird if you do know about it, actually. But this person was channeling Kurt Cobain, and it was like the first time he'd ever done it, I guess. And it was like several years after he passed. So anyway, they asked him a question. Like, first, the person that was channeling or communicating, I guess, with him, asked him a question, or they were talking telepathically, and then she brought their conversation forward when she had like set it up or whatever was necessary. So she asks him a question, and he goes like, yes, yes, yes. He's like, why am I saying yes? Still cracks me up. But that made me feel like, okay, that felt like a real connection. Because she'd already said it was the first time he ever done it, but he wanted to go ahead and do it. So that was interesting. But like Freddie Mercury, I heard the animal communicator, her name is Kate Sitka, Sitka, like I think there's a city in Alaska, same. So she's psychic medium, animal communicator, and I'm not real sure what exactly she's doing as far as like readings or any kind of services, because she also has other stuff that she does, people change what they do. They move out of doing readings and things like that, and life happens. So but she had Freddie Mercury one way, and then I saw someone else talk to him, and it was like, wow, that's completely different from what he said, to pretty much the same kind of questions from this other person. So that's interesting. He's got to kind of, you never really know, I guess, if you're not in the room. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if you're not in the room, because you can kind of tell if you got a little something going on, if you got a little of the shining. So, one thing I've noticed that lets me know that something is happening, like, for instance, sometimes I'll be in like a state of meditating, or I don't know, like it just happens sometimes where I'll just be all like filled with feeling and like good feeling, and like, almost feel like what the hell's going on? And then I realize, oh, okay, this is like something spirit related. And it always makes me think of the passages in the Bible when they say that an angel appears to someone, and the first thing the angel always says is, "Fear not," and the person is weeping and fainting, and I was like, wow, that sounds like a Baptist funeral. But I understand it now, because I get like, I don't like fall over and start crying, but I definitely get like that crying, breathing, and my eyes start going, and my nose is going, and I'm like, okay. And so another time, or in a very similar kind of way though, without the weeping, that I know something is going on, is because my ears will start ringing and my nose will start running. And I thought that could be any time, because I have sinus issues all the time. there's other like accompanying sensations too that go along with it. And you just start to notice the little indicators. So what am I leading up to there? I'm just saying, like, that's how it is for me. And so probably if you're watching here, then you know a lot of this already, and you know like what you do or don't have going on, or you're watching stuff and it's, what you need to know, you'll find it, like that's kind of how it works. It's not just my experience, that's kind of what I've observed too. So another thing that I really liked about all of them had this capacity, and it was actually really beautiful, and it did make me tear up watching and my nose start running a couple of times. In fact, every time the psychic and the other person got started on their session, my eyes would start getting a little teary, and or my nose would start, well, my nose always it starts running for that, but sometimes I tear up, and it would be like, I guess, partially emotional. But I have noticed, and I noticed this a while ago, and I finally got verification about a year after I realized it, and I just wasn't sure because I'm in a situation where if I don't have money to pay someone to ask about stuff like this, I don't have anyone to talk about it with or ask or anything like that. So just kind of trying to figure it out on my own. And so I start talking about myself, I forget what I'm talking about. Back up here. I was talking about the sensations that, tearing up during the show. So I just want to interrupt there and say that I am a total pothead, and my memory has gotten better. Sorry. So yeah, I noticed that, like, on my own, I'm not like as sure or sort of powerful enough to do things. Although that was a while ago, that's probably less so now. But I did notice that I could tune in to what I'm watching. And so, if, like I was gonna say earlier, if you are watching here, you probably know stuff like that you can tune in to, like, your phone and connect with somebody in a way, like with one of your Claires. So I noticed that I do better if I have like some other like backup, or if I'm like adding to something else that's happening. And then I've been able, like, since, to kind of apply it in situations with people that sometimes we both know they have something going on, and sometimes I don't know, sometimes it's just happening and it's just happening. But I'm like watching the show and getting like tuned into it, and I think that's what was making me so emotional. Oh shoot, I think the cat's banging on the door to get in. Good thing we have a roof on the patio. He can wait a few minutes because I'm almost done. So I just found it, like, this show very encouraging. It felt good to, like, connect with it, like I was just talking about. And it felt good to see, like, normal people, older people, like people not waking up as a child, which someone does, or a lot of, some do. I talk good. And don't be afraid of it, it can really work for you. I don't want to there was one guy that had like he was black, and he was talking about an ancestor, and he was kind of hung up on the price that the man was valued at the time. And one thing that came out of his experience was that, the medium said, you need to, and this was also with the relative's endorsement too. She was telling him, since you're hung up on that number, why don't you make it your own thing, like turn it into something valuable instead of something negative, and like you don't have to have that association with it. That's not really good for you. Like, it was this whole little therapy session, and that's like going to be about the last thing I want to talk about this with. Was through the experience, these people both began to heal themselves. Like, some people had like therapy, maybe all of them had therapy, which is good, but with this work they were doing, helping other people heal, in turn healed them. So it was just very healing. No, it was good though. So that's it. I just wanted to turn in a little something on Sunday. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Should I address stuff? I know it's gnarly out there right now, but my perspective is kind of like, yes, it's over there, and yes, it's affecting me, but it doesn't have to take over, Life goes on, and other life goes on too. Thank you, and good night.